In this video, we'll be looking at how we can deploy our application into a platform as a service provider like Heroku. Right? So let's say this is our very simple Flask application, right? It has just one root and it just displays Hello World on the browser, right? Now, before I actually start to deploy this on a server, what I'll do is to prepare this application so that it can be easily deployed on a platform like Heroku, right? So the first thing which we need to do is to install the necessary Python modules and dependencies, right? So before that, I will create a virtual environment, right? So that the packages which I install here, it doesn't conflict with other packages on my system. Right. And now what I do is I go and activate this virtual environment, right? And now if I want to see which all packages are available in this virtual environment, I type pip and freeze, right? Currently nothing is there. And now I would like to install Flask, of course, because this is a Flask application, and I also would want to install a module known as gUnicorn. So gUnicorn is used by Heroku to deploy this application. So gUnicorn is nothing but a web server gateway interface, and Heroku uses this to deploy Python applications, right? So I install all of these, and this in turn installs some other packages and modules. Okay, so now if I type in pip freeze, I will see that these are the packages or modules which are available, and these are their versions, right? And now what I need to do is I need to store these packages and their version numbers, right? I need to store it into a file known as requirements.txt. So what is present in requirements.txt is nothing but a list of packages which are required for this project, right? So Heroku looks at requirements.txt and installs these modules and with these version numbers, right? And another important file which is needed is the Procfile, right? And the Procfile tells Heroku how we should run this application, right? So what it is telling Heroku is, okay, this is a web application, right? We are using gUnicorn web server, right? And in app.py, which is our main file, right? In app.py, there is a variable called app, right? And that is what has to be run, right? So in app.py, run app. So that is why we need to specify this in the Procfile so that Heroku will know how to run this application. So the Procfile and requirements.txt are the two important settings which we need to do. So now that we have done this, now let's go and look at Heroku. So this is the Heroku website, right? I've logged in, so you can sign up and create an account, right? And on the top you can see button called new, which will help you create a new app, right? So Heroku is a platform as a service provider, right? It provides the entire platform for you, the infrastructure and an easy way to deploy applications. So I create a simple test Flask app with a name, right? I can choose maybe Europe, right? And I create the app, right? And all that information about, what is needed by Heroku to run Python application. So it is available here, right? So like installing the app dependencies, right? And the Procfile, right? So all of this information is available online, right? So I looked that up and I set up my app there. All right. Now there are several ways in which you can deploy your application to Heroku, right? So one way is to use the Heroku command line interface. Okay. So I have already installed this. So installing this is very easy, right? And then what you have to do is you have to log into Heroku. Okay, type in Heroku login, right? Go to your specific project, right? Initialize a Git repository, right? And then create a remote repository which points to this repository, right? And once we create this repository, then what has to be done is, normally how do we commit, right? We add files, we commit, and instead of pushing to some other GitHub repository, right? Heroku is the remote repository now, and I push my master branch to Heroku. Right? So let's see how, let's follow these steps and see if we can deploy our application. Right, so now that I've set up everything, the first thing I'll do is I will log in. And it's asking me to open the browser and log in. Yeah, so now this opens up a login button, and since I've already logged in, it should say that I'm logged in. Okay, now I go back to my terminal and it says that it's logged in, right? All right. Now that I've done this, now I initialize the Git repository, right? And then what I do is I copy, I create a remote repository which points to this app. Okay, now, so it has set this Git remote Heroku to this, right, which points to the app at Heroku. Now I can check my status, right? I have these files which have not been committed yet. So I will add my Procfile, app.py and requirements.txt. The virtual environment files I need not add. Okay, and then I can commit, let's say with an initial commit, right? So it has been committed. Now what I can do is I will push, right, to the remote branch, which is Heroku, and I push my master branch, right? Now what this will do is, this will not only push my code to the Heroku's repository, but it will also start deployment, right? So let's see how that happens. Right, so now at remote it is now starting to build, right, things. So it's installing Python, it's installing pip, right, and whatever was there in requirements.txt, it's installing all of that, right? And from the Procfile, it understood that it is a web application, right, and it has launched this, right? It has been deployed. Now let me check if this is working. Just copy it and open it in my web browser. Right, and it's working. So in this way you can deploy your application to the cloud, right? And if you go to Heroku, you can also check out, what all has happened. So the build has succeeded, right, and it has been deployed, right? And it also provides metrics, right? So you need to add a credit card to install metrics, and you can also add other resources, right? You can so you can add data stores, caching, content management. There are several things which you can do, right? So in this way, we saw how we can deploy an application to a PaaS platform like Heroku, right? So there are several other platforms like Google App Engine in which follow a similar process, right? And now if you want to make some modifications to your code, right, you simply follow the normal commit process, right? So let's say I want to just change this to, let's say, Hello World, new version, right? Save it, and right, what I can do is just check the status, right? And I just add app.py and I commit with, say, change the message, right? And I get a push to Heroku from my master branch, right? So then again it will commit as well as it will build the application for me. Right, so it has been deployed. Now if I want to check it, I have to just go here and maybe just refresh it, right? So the new version also has been deployed.